think, you know, the conversation that we had the other day was really just, okay, how are we going to tackle this, and how can we, as perhaps people that have an opportunity to talk to other practitioners, kind of open up this conversation?
Yeah, so I might not have all the solutions, but between us as a profession, I know I reached out to another practitioner who has had really amazing experience in suicide awareness and prevention training, and
Yeah.
she's got some excellent tips that we're actually putting together an ebook specifically for
Excellent.
practitioners, so that we have access to this kind of information that doctors have access to all the time, right?
Yeah, and I think that was the thing that really got me thinking. Belle, who's one of the practitioners with me here at the dispensary, gave me this really amazing book that I'd recommend to you guys. It's called This Is Gonna Hurt, and it is a novel by an NHS doctor going through his training in England. Have you read the book, Tammy?
I have, yeah.
So I think,
and there's some amazingly funny moments, but heartbreaking as well.
I know, and I think unless you do the kind of work we do, you don't find it funny, you find it shocking. But I definitely laughed out loud beside the pool in Bali, probably alarming my people I were with, about some of the moments. But at the end of that, he really pointed out about one of the biggest things we can do to change, you know, not just NHS-style doctors' practice, but also what we're doing as health professionals is ask each other if are you okay? And so, yeah, I think the initiative that you're doing, putting together this ebook, is obviously really needed, because I think perhaps this conversation isn't happened. And I shared a little bit with you in the past, you know, about how certainly seeing the oncology patients got to me after a period of time. And, you know, I would say that I have great mental health and I have a lot of support, but just the volume and the I guess the brevity of the situations of those patients started to become overwhelming. And, you know, I know for me, it was the kind of tap on the shoulder of the chiropractor who I'd talked to about it, said, go see someone. And I did. And that was a huge change for me as far as clarity about how I was going to handle these oncology patients. And I think it doesn't have to be oncology. It can be pregnancy loss, or it could be elderly patients. You know, you can form a connection with these patients and trying not to be overwhelmed with their you know, declining health, and just, you know, people who are just really, really ill, financial issues, all those things can be really overwhelming if you're not having somehow or some way to deal with it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even the first time that I lost a client through no fault of my own, but to have somebody pass away that you've been in their life, you know, their family, they've been part of your journey, and you've been part of their journey, even that in itself isn't something that we have conversations about. Whereas as doctors and other professions, they've got access to counseling services that is what you talk about. That's the opportunity you have. And it's really, really important, because if you are in practice long enough, someone's going to die.
Oh, totally.
And to process those feelings, you have to be able to speak through it, to talk through it. And that starts with something as easy as, are you okay? But then it continues with, and how are you feeling about that? And then checking in after that. And sharing things like your aha moment. What was your aha moment from your experience of talking to somebody about seeing so many oncology patients?
Yeah, well, the trigger for me that was bothering me was that these women were born the same year as me, and they had children, and it started to make me think, I don't know, that I was going to get this same diagnosis as them. And the aha moment was when the psychologist said to me that in her practice organization, they had a limit of seeing 4 oncology patients a week. And that for me just really clarified, okay, so I at that stage was doing about 14 oncology patients a week. And so, you know, that's well above what they were recommending. You know, probably someone who had some really great research or HR background made that ruling, and here I was just totally blowing it out of the water. And it wasn't that I decided, well, I thought I've got a choice here. I can decide to minimize the patients that I see, or I can handle how I see them better. And that was the choice I took. And I wrote down some notes of some of the ways that I think I handle it, if you want me to share them. But I think it's those moments, and recognizing them is what we need to spend more time doing while we're running our busy practices or growing our practices.
Yeah, I agree completely. And it's not even just the clinical side of practice. For many of us, burnout and the starts of those kind of darker days and darker moments of not being okay It can come from the juggle that we have as practitioners, as mothers, as parents, as sons, as business owners as well. And there are statistics around suicide rates in business owners being higher than the general population. Yeah. And obviously there are statistics around that in doctors and healthcare professionals. We don't have statistics like that for us as a profession, but given that we have all of these stressors and higher rates in some of the other things that we are juggling, it's very likely that we do have those things happening as well. And for me, my moment was standing on a cliff, and I'm not somebody generally in normal life, I'm the most optimistic, positive type of person. But for me to have a change in my lifestyle and a change in my identity as a practitioner and a business owner, and standing on a cliff, being uncontrollable in the crying that I had and things like that, it affects everybody at some stage. And for us to open up the conversation in it and share what's worked for us in the past, and if you guys who are listening have something that's worked for you in the past, it would be so valuable to contribute to this conversation, because we're not the experts in it for sure. And everybody's had a different experience of it, and everybody's going to have a different way through it. But something's going to help when you're in those dark moments, to be able to have your own aha moment to get you through it, because we're all here to help one another as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So what helped you?
I think the number one thing that I kind of feel is know the warning signs. You know, for me, I'm like you, I would say I'm very much glass half full, if not overflowing. And so for me, it's subtle things like being irritable with the loved ones at home. You know, I have this policy, I don't go home and talk about the work traumas, because then I just feel like it comes into my house as well. But that means, you know, the people I see on a day-to-day basis, I don't share this stuff with. So if I'm starting to get irritable with them, I think it's because I'm kind of overflowing with too much. I'm feeling withdrawn. Also for me, it's difficulty sleeping. And I would say one of the things I notice that other practitioners will talk to me about is they start to hit the supplements like the Carvers and the NeuroCalms. And my question with everything is that solving the problem, or are we just using our beautiful herbs to negate the fact that we've got these stressed problems? And then the other biggest thing, you know, I think I've made some habits that I can use, you know, limiting work hours and taking regular breaks. For me, leaving the clinic at lunchtime is really important, just for like an energetic cleanse. And then knowing what I'm going to do, you know, one of the biggest things that helps me, like a positive action to move forward, is debriefing with other practitioners. And so one of the things I think we can encourage, especially with this great network, is there's someone you connect with, make them your little practitioner buddy. And, you know, I recently had quite a traumatic consultation, and I literally got off the consultation shaking. I thought I was going to vomit as well. It was quite traumatic. And I rang Nicole Top, because she's one of my buddies. And then I also spoke to Jules Galloway for a good 30 minutes after, just to try and... So if I didn't have that, and I had to go straight into the next consultation, which was some poor girl with blasto, I don't think I would have done a very good job, and I would have definitely left the day in a lot worse situation than what I did, which was probably bad enough. But it's having that practitioner buddy. You only need one that you can call. Yeah. And, you know, I'm sure we would both say, call us, but there's also probably someone you can connect to on the hub that, you know, you went to college with, or you're in a similar area with, or you've got a similar interest with, so that you've got that person. Or you've even
seen a post that you resonate with from them, and you're like, oh, I get what that person's saying. I really agree with that person. And reaching out to be we are in a collaborative profession where we are absolutely on the same team, and all of us are human, and all of us have had these moments of freak out, of worry, of I absolutely felt in a really similar position after some of the worst, the things that we hear.
Yeah.
And otherwise it sits in us. I mean, we know as practitioners that energetically sits in us, and if it doesn't come out as a vibration of energy through talking, it's gonna come out a different way.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, so I think, that's one of the things. And then I think having a, it's just as simple as having a chat like this. Get online with someone or have a coffee with someone. And it maybe isn't even someone in our industry, although I do think, you need to get professional, confidential support if it's not going to be someone from the industry. But just having someone, another person that comes to mind is your reps. If you have a rep come out and you've built a relationship with that rep, most often those reps are practitioners or have been practitioners themselves. And especially if you're in an isolated area, a rep is perhaps a good person to talk to too.
And they often hear stories that are very similar to what you're experiencing from other people, because they actually get to see more other practitioners than we do. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then lastly, what I'd love to put out there is pracs need pracs as well. So getting a professional help whenever you need it is really, really important. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of anything other than knowing that you can put your hand up and say, right now, I'm not okay. And sourcing them out. If you have got on Lifeline, or you have got on a helpline or a Beyond Blue line, and you haven't got what you needed, go and find a prac in your area, a therapist, a psychotherapist, somebody who you can resonate with, and be there and share your story and share what's going on for you, because without sharing it, it's stuck, and we need to share it. Yeah.
By no means is this any accounting advice, but I certainly feel like the professional therapy that you could get should be something under a similar category as mentoring, so I think don't let the finances of it be stopping you either, because I think the investment you make in that, whether or not you access a care plan, is well worth the money as well. So, I tax deducted mine. I'm not sure if that's right, but I feel like it kept me going at my job. So I thought it was.
Absolutely. So as this is only opening the conversation, and again, by no means am I an expert in this, but I really don't want anyone out there who is either feeling those senses of burnout, getting those signs and symptoms that something's not quite right, or are further along and have a diagnosis or have something else going on. I don't want this to be the end point of something. I want it to be the beginning. And so from an action steps perspective, because I'm always about the action, people, and I'm always about the conversation, I would love if you are open to, and you're in the Naturpreneur Hub, pop in something that you have noticed when things aren't quite going right. So Carla pointed out that some of us hit the carver, some of us hit the supplements a lot harder than we usually do.
Hit the snooze button. Don't want to get out of bed.
Hit the snooze button. Pretend that we're, cancel all our clients. I've been in so many conversations. Keone's one of the ones that I've been in conversation with as well, where we've gotten to a point where we don't want to open the doors in the morning, and not having somebody to talk to about that is so isolating. Just like you said, Danielle, it's so isolating, and we don't have to be like that. There's thousands and thousands of us that can actually have these conversations with one another, and we've all been through some variety of it. So yeah, what's a sign and symptom that you've noticed when you're not quite right, and what has helped you? And if it is Lifeline, put the Lifeline number in here. If it is Beyond Blue, if it was a conversation, if it was whatever it was to help you get through it. And then we can actually start a conversation about this, and it isn't something that we're not talking about and we're hiding under the carpet, and then everybody thinks that that's the way to do it, because it's just not. And I really think that something needs to change in the way that we're doing things, because there are so many of us that are here to contribute to the health of everybody else, yet our mental health is suffering in silence. So yeah. Thank you so much for the conversation, Carla.
No, thank you for sharing it. As I said to you, this is a little bit of my bandwagon for the rest of the year. And I think, certainly the associations and perhaps some of the supplement companies should get on board with this discussion to support us through it, so we can have a really clear plan, a bit like the doctors and firefighters and other people do. So we don't have this issue in our industry and become some kind of statistic too.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who is on the call. And if this has been powerful for you, or you know somebody else who needs to hear this, please share it. And we'll have our ebook out soon so that you can download that and you can access it and pop it up on your clinic fridge so that you have access to that information straight away if you need it. All right. Thanks again, Carla.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.